Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome back to episode 18
hmm
of Liberty One Wealth, Inevitable Wealth.
hmm
And today we are talking about 10 things to think about when you get into retirement. But real quick, we have Julian DiLeonardo. Julian, how are you?
Happy fall, everyone. Yes, 10 things to think about before you retire, as you kind of prepare for it and head into it. What should you be considering?
Yeah. So we will get into it quickly. So, number one, this is also something I think a lot of folks struggle thinking about thoughtfully is what will your monthly lifestyle cost you in retirement?
Will they make it up initially?
Yeah,
And the goal is to really drill down on what that number is, because I think you've seen it, I've seen it. Everybody has a vision for what it should be,
yeah,
but nobody likes to actually look at the credit card bill and see what it actually is.
yeah,
Doesn't mean it's always estimated low, but it is always estimated instead of reviewed
yeah,
and taken more in depth.
yeah. I would say a good amount of folks might have a good number, but then there's sometimes that those ghost
hmm
expenses that they don't realize. And I always quote you actually say, when you're retired, every day is Saturday.
hmm
So a lot of folks don't realize instead of sneaking away to the shore for the weekend over the summer,
hmm
now you can go for 2, 3 weeks if you want.
A lot of
So
brunches, a lot of
a lot
brunches.
of
Yeah,
brunches,
yeah.
right? So your expenses are naturally just going to be higher
hmm
because you have the time to travel, go
hmm
out to eat, and enjoy, live your life.
Exactly. And I think the data shows it increases at first, your monthly spending, and then over time it decreases from that peak because every day becomes a little bit less like Saturday, a little
Yeah,
bit less brunch.
yeah,
You have eggs every morning one too many times and you
yeah,
dial it back.
yeah,
So it does come down, but you do want to think, what am I actually going to do on this day? Because you're not just logging in for work or showing up to the office and keeping your spending down that way.
yeah. And yeah, so keep track of that. And one thing too, we'll make sure, folks, we always build it into our plans no matter what, is healthcare,
hmm
costs for healthcare, navigating those costs with Medicare. So keep an eye on those things.
Exactly. And then things come off the books too. Some things come on the books, some things come off the books. But
Yeah,
bottom line is you really got to drill down on what it is
yeah,
because it's easy to estimate, but it's
yeah,
harder to be accurate.
yeah. And it's also sometimes scary to look at the spending
Oh yeah.
and be like, oh, we don't want to, but you got
Yeah.
to know. You
Yeah.
got to know.
Yeah.
Number two, when will you claim Social Security?
Yes. So everybody's different. We do run analysis for the families we serve, but it's one of the most strategic decisions you can make. I was talking to a CPA last week, and I was saying it's very much undervalued by most families we talk to about it,
Yeah,
where it can be worth 1.5 to $2 million over their lifetime, right? So if they were to have that on cash, they'd feel entirely different. But when you run the analysis and play it out 25, 30 years, it really does add up.
yeah.
What kind of comes into play when you analyze that for folks, Jackie?
So we typically, it's a two-prong decision-making tree. The first is using our retirement report. Is there a date that is just most efficient? Sometimes it says, hey, if you wait until your full retirement age, by the way, if you don't know your full retirement age, go to ssa.gov. You can
hmm
find out. You can see what your, but basically it might say, listen, 67 is the key spot, right? If you retired at 62 or 63, live off your portfolio a little bit, let the Social Security benefit increase over time, and then you start pulling on income. But some, of our families, a lot of our families are pretty confident in their retirement
hmm
picture. So then I like to say it's a philosophy call.
hmm
And some folks, it really depends on philosophy. Some people say, I don't need it. My family has longevity. So we'll wait till later, 67, 68, 70, to get the higher payment. And some folks say, hey, I've been working hard. I want my money at 62 in a day because I want to spend it now when
hmm
I'm enjoying travel and living it up with the grandkids. So that's kind of how we usually work about it. But anything to add there?
For a lot of folks, we look at it as a hedge against inflation, right? Costs continue to climb, as we know. If you were to look back over the past couple of years, was it 2022 or 2023? the cost of living adjustment on Social Security was what, 8%,
Yeah, it was like
9%?
7. Yeah, it was up there.
So it was pretty high, and you're not going to see that really anywhere else, right?
No.
Where you're getting that huge benefit automatically guaranteed. So whenever you think, when should I take it? When should I retire? Not only does it impact you based on the amount you're initially receiving, but that amount will compound over time because Social Security is so generous in terms of their adjustment.
Yeah.
So we view it as a hedge long term. If you live till 105, you want to have that income
Yeah.
continue to grow, because $10,000 today is not the same as it was 30 years ago.
Yeah.
It's very different.
Good points. And number 3, how long do you need your money to last?
Goes right into the same
Yeah, yeah.
topic, right? So we typically run the analysis out till 95 or 100, because again, the biggest risk is outliving your income. It's not necessarily the fluctuations in the market. That's a given. That's always going to happen. It's outliving your income or having a health challenge maybe around age 92 and you need cash there, because you got to take care of things.
Yeah.
What would you add as we kind of go through this?
I think also when you're thinking about your longevity planning, and this goes to a lot of the families out there that might be deciding what they're going to do with their pension. Longevity is very important, but also it's unpredictable. So you want to play, in a way, devil's advocate on both sides,
Yeah, that's a
right?
good point.
If you have a pension and they usually give you a number, oh, the break even is 25 years. Then if you're retiring at 70, say, hey, maybe taking the lump sum might make more sense, because hey, if I don't spend all this, I don't leave it behind to my beneficiaries or my partner or spouse. So you want to look at both, because no one knows when
Yep.
their ticket's going to be punched, for a
Yep.
better way of putting
Yeah.
it. So you have to look at both
Exactly.
angles.
Those folks with a $2 or $3 million pension lump sum cash value, if they were to take just strictly the income and pass 3 years in, right, it
Yeah.
all dissipates, goes back to the plan instead of their next generation, or the generation after that.
Yeah.
So it's a very good point. A lot can be lost or gained by planning appropriately.
Number 4.
I'll do it. Number 4.
Oh, yeah, you take it over. You take the question.
Do you know your withdrawal strategy? So what does that mean?
Withdrawal strategy. So basically, when you retire, it's the time of your life when you're the longest of unemployment, really. And you have to be able to understand how to draw from your accounts from a tax efficient perspective, and make sure it works well. So, for an example, we have some folks that retire year 1, they're not on Social Security, they don't have active employment income, so they have a really good amount of wiggle room to take capital gains at with no tax.
Exactly.
Or basically, if someone has a Roth IRA versus traditional IRA, we typically lean on letting the Roth IRA grow, because that's a tax-free asset that, if it's going to be inherited by the kids or someone else, right, that's like tax advantage. So you really want to think about which accounts you're withdrawing from, how you're doing it, because you can easily just start drawing money from your accounts, pay more taxes than you should, and kind of put yourself in a troubling spot.
Exactly. And I was speaking to a gentleman last week, well, 2 weeks ago, but either way, he retired at 63 and he has 7 years for Social Security to grow. It's the first time since he was, I think he said 15 or 16, that he hasn't had a traditional income.
Yeah.
So quite a long time, right?
Yeah.
50 years almost since he's not had an income. And now that his income is 0, a lot of flexibility in what he can do, where he can do conversions, he can sell his taxable assets for a gain and pay no taxes, depending on how much we're looking at. And there are a lot of strong variety of ways to save on that lifetime tax rate for both him and his children. Because if he were to pass and his children inherit it, they're 42 and 43.
Yeah.
So where are they? They're in the highest tax paying years of their life in the next couple of years.
Yeah.
And so how do you optimize it for yourself? And if maybe the goal isn't you, because you have a little bit more than maybe you feel like you need, how do you optimize it for that next generation?
Yeah.
And that's where that withdrawal strategy really comes in for both yourself, your family, and the following generation.
Yeah. And I just pulled this up real quick, but if you're married, filing jointly, right, you can realize basically $96,000 in long-term capital
Mhm.
gains at zero tax. So if you needed 120 or something, sure, you might pay a little bit capital gains tax over that,
Mhm.
but yeah, it's just very, very powerful. And if you have concentrated stock
Mhm.
positions, you've been holding on forever because they've been just accruing, uh, and appreciating.
Mhm.
It's really a good thing to consider at retirement.
Exactly. Exactly. Taxes aren't all bad. Sometimes it's good. The
Yeah,
tax code to really just take advantage of it, optimize it, make it easy for you.
yeah.
All right. What will healthcare cost before Medicare? So we do have this pretty often. A lot of folks we work with retire 55, and essentially, how do they get healthcare? How do they pay for it? How do they get their retirement assets out? Jackie?
Yeah. So pre-Medicare, if you retire before 65, and we work with a lot of families that do retire pretty early
Hmm.
before 65, um, you're gonna have to figure out, unless you're lucky where if your company has some sort of retirement benefits plan, uh, you got to look into the market. And there's a
Hmm.
lot of different ways to go about it. You might look at the marketplace where you get a subsidy, talking about income planning, right?
Hmm.
If you have a low enough income, you get a subsidy where basically the federal government gives you a little portion, gives you some money back when you get a medical
Exactly. Yep.
policy. Um, or Cobra might be an
Hmm.
option if there's a severance situation. So there's a lot of things you want to look at. And another thing we always want to make sure our families think about as well is spousal coverage. So if you are on a retirement plan
Hmm.
at your company, but your spouse is over 65, they have to get on Medicare, right?
Hmm.
So there's a lot of, again, nuance with that and making sure you plan around it, because if your health care really is a direct correlation to what your medical costs will be
Hmm.
and your out of pocket will be.
And the medical costs only go up as
They
you
only
as
go
you
up.
exceed
Yeah,
60
yeah,
and beyond.
yeah, yeah,
Things do go wrong, knee replacement, whatever it may be,
yeah,
and you want to make sure you're covered,
yeah,
because there are going to be issues,
yeah.
unfortunately.
Fun or unfun fact, I like to say, medical costs inflate on average 4.5%.
Yep.
So
It's
yeah,
only getting more
and it's
complex.
only getting
Yeah.
worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Um, I'll take this one. Have you reviewed your
mm,
investment risk? So, risk means a lot of different things when it comes to investing, right? There's inflation risk, there's the volatility risk. But when you really look at it, as you head into retirement, you want to make sure it's optimal for the next 30 years. Yes, it's going to be adjusted regularly if you're working with our team or something similar. But the biggest risk is that for the first couple years, there's a sequence of returns risk, right? Where we come into a drawdown that maybe wasn't foreseen or
yeah,
is a little bit deeper than most have been. And so you do want to make sure one thing we do, Jackie, is we have 2 years worth of cash on hand for new retirees. So at the top of 2022, we retired about 5 families, and because they had 2 years worth of cash, even though it was a volatile year on the market and the S&P was down about 18%, they had no issues. And that doesn't just mean financial issues. That means they were able to sleep at night totally
yeah,
comfortable, knowing that their income was covered for 2 years. And when the market rebounded, they rided that right back up without having to sell anything at a
yeah,
loss, right?
yeah,
So totally taken care of, because those first couple years, those first 5 years or so, are so critical in terms of
yeah,
how you play your cards and what the outcome will look like.
yeah.
What would you add? Is there anything that
I
comes to
would,
mind for you as far as risk?
yeah, I'll definitely also point out that, planning for retirement doesn't mean just taking risk off the table.
Hmm.
Um, it'd be wonderful and easy to say, hey, you're retired, great. Let's go get like some CDs and cash and you can ride out. But unfortunately, nine out of
Hmm.
10 people that we meet, that simply won't work. It won't
Yes.
work.
It's not
So
the end of the race.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Retirement actually is where you're just
Hmm.
starting. Um, so planning around that and understanding that it's not a matter of if, it's a
Hmm.
matter of when. The market is cyclical, it's going to pull back.
Hmm.
Let's get as comfortable with that fact as we can, and then having that plan, like the bear market reserve, we like to call it, having that in place.
Hmm.
Yeah, because 2022 was a fifth worst sell-off in
Yeah.
90 years
Across the board,
across
stocks, bonds,
every asset class is down.
inflation ticked up.
Inflation,
So there
yeah,
was nowhere was safe, right? Even if
yeah,
you were in cash, you were down 8%.
yeah,
So It's something where when you look at it, it's not the end of the race. A lot of folks do want to go to all cash sometimes as
Yeah.
they come into retirement.
Yeah.
But there's 30 years to plan for. And
Yeah.
if you don't own Procter and Gamble and you don't own J&J and you don't own Toyota, right? When they raise prices, you don't benefit from that.
Yeah.
You just simply have to pay more when you go places.
Yeah. And I don't even cut you off. Inflation, right? Like inflation is one of the biggest risks to spending power, but the best way is proven is being in the stock market.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I think we've made that point. Oh,
I
got another one?
No, hold on. Well,
Drop it. It's fine. Just say
no, because continue.
I was gonna go to the next one. All right. So number 7, are your taxes optimized?
Now, we talked a little bit about this earlier, but when it comes to the withdrawal strategy, are you also optimizing everything across the board? Because your Roth conversions, right, making those conversions in those low income years can be very impactful. Where you live can be very impactful. A lot of families we work with do 6 months in a day in Florida, right?
Yep.
Simply so that they don't have to pay New Jersey taxes,
Yep.
which are a killer.
Yep.
So what are you doing around that? It doesn't mean you should change your whole lifestyle to save a nickel, but maybe there's some things you can do, some levers you can pull. Jackie, I know you talk a lot about donating the RMD effectively.
Yep.
You want to talk a little bit about that?
So a lot of families, again, they have the great thing about retirement plans is tax deferred, but at one point, Uncle Sam's going to tap on your shoulder and say, "Hey, you need to start taking distributions," right? And those are called RMDs, required minimum distributions. And for a lot of folks, it can offset a lot of things if you have enough income from Social Security, pensions, or other ways, or you're liquidating stock, and then now you have to start taking an extra 50,000 or sometimes $100,000 a year out of your retirements.
Yeah, we have a few folks taking 90, 100,000
Yeah.
that they don't need.
They don't need. So what do we do with that? One, first, I'm gonna say that's a champagne problem. It's a good problem to have,
Absolutely.
right? You did a great job.
Yeah, worked hard for it.
But two, we start to think, what is your legacy, right? There's gifting. A lot of folks, you can, if you gift your RMD to like a nonprofit, right?
Big Brothers, Big Sisters.
Big Brothers, Big
Philadelphia.
Sisters. How much?
For
Nonprofit.
example,
Before
nobody here is on the board.
if I'm just randomly bringing up a nonprofit,
Yes,
I don't know,
yes.
Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Independence. I hear
yes.
they do good things. Got good
I
people
heard,
there.
I heard.
But
Good looking board of directors.
yeah, but you know that offsets your tax, but also you're giving your funds to a cause that you believe in, or just gifting to kids, right? You know, taking advantage of the gift tax, or to grandchildren. We see that a lot. Yeah, it's you just got to think about what are your things to add there, Julian?
Yeah, just to circle back, qualified charitable distribution would be the term.
Yes.
And what you're doing is donating that RMD, and the amount you donate as a qualified charitable distribution is excluded from your taxable income.
Yeah.
So it's not for everybody, but for those charitably inclined or with substantial taxable assets and pre-tax assets, a lot of times they find that that's the optimal way to donate, because if you're going to donate, let's say $40,000 to Big Brothers, Big Sisters over the year, that would be the best way to do it, as opposed to donating it from your checking account.
Yeah.
So a wide variety of options available, but you do want to, again, 3 things you can control in investing: cost, tax efficiency, and risk.
Yeah.
So that's an easy one, easy lever to pull.
And one thing too, it doesn't have to be the whole RMD as well. It could be a portion. So, you know, one folks thinking like, I gotta give it all up. No. What?
Yes.
All right, number 8.
I'll give you this one. What's your plan for long-term care? So Jackie comes across this a lot. He handles a lot of those conversations here at Liberty One. What kind of options are available? What does the general space look like? You know, what are people worried about?
Yeah. So back to medical expenses. Well, back to the 3 things we try to offset risk-wise when you retire, right? And the first is outliving your money. For most part, the families we have, that's not generally really typically an issue unless they start buying yachts and boats and start spending some money, right?
And they work with us.
And they work with
So
us.
it
'Cause, you know,
helps.
boom, boom.
Somebody say, you spend a little too much.
Yeah, exactly. Hey.
Yeah.
2 is inflation, right? Your purchase power loan, which also they're invested, they work with us. not really an issue that we come across. The third is medical events. And unfortunately, the statistic is 70% of retirees will have some form of a long-term care event. And I don't know anyone who has not personally witnessed it in
Mhm.
their life. They're a parent, aging parent, or or grandparent. And unfortunately, Medicare doesn't really cover extended care,
Mhm.
and doesn't cover a lot of the medical devices if you are in this situation.
Mhm.
So what we help a lot of our families offset this is, insurance. It's easy. You can leverage it,
Mhm. It's
and
guaranteed,
it's guaranteed,
tax free.
tax free.
Mhm.
And also, one thing I think the insurance policies help with is that e- ease.
Mhm.
Um, a lot of families that have resources say, "Hey, why don't we just earmark
Mhm.
some money? We'll grow it. Why if we invested it in this bucket and see?" But the thing is about these type of events is we don't know,
Mhm.
right? Someone says, "Oh, if I invest this money for 20 years, I'm 60. If I invest it by the time I'm 85, it'll grow and we'll have enough money." But like, well, what if something happens when you're 63 and
Mhm.
then you had 3 years to grow that money? And also, just a long-term care event is a
Mhm.
very emotional experience. You got to figure out how to take care of your loved one. And the last thing you want to be doing is trying to figure out which account to pull money from,
Mhm.
how to, you got taxes now. Are we pulling from our
Mhm.
retirement accounts? And the insurance is easy, right? You qualify, you get a doctor qualify, and
Mhm.
payments turn on, and you can like spend time and energy on the more
Yeah.
important things,
The well-being
the
component.
well-being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say yes, a lot of people do choose to self-insure, and that's very much a reasonable route if you have the assets. But they self-insure and they don't put anything into that actual bucket, right?
Yeah.
They say, "Oh, I'll just pay it out of pocket," but everything's still invested in the stock market and
Yeah.
at the whims of the stock market.
Yeah.
So if you are considering, "Hey, I'm going to self-insure," instead of looking at a policy or looking at alternatives, you want to make sure that that is a separate bucket from your core
Absolutely.
assets,
Yeah.
because like Jackie said, it can happen at any time. It can happen at 67, 75, and your assets may not have time to grow up to that point, or it may be, a tougher year in the market where it
Yeah.
is volatile
Yeah.
and you don't want to have to sell or be put in that position.
Yeah. And I would add to that point, and also make sure you're just disciplined.
Hmm.
Um, if you have this bucket, you might have all the intention to say, "Yep, this is for a long-term care event, and it's growing." And you're going to need a good amount of money for long-term care. So in PA, the average nurse to come to your home can be $5,000 to $7,000 a
Hmm.
month. If you're in a facility, it's easily $7,000 to $10,000 a month. So you're going to need a good amount of money on hand to offset those costs. Um,
Yeah, could be
and
200,
yeah,
300,000
yeah,
very
it's
quickly.
several hundred thousand
Yeah,
dollars. And you need to have the discipline,
yeah.
because if you have $300,000 in a pot that says this is for medical costs, but there's some other financial disaster going on in your life, and that money is ready available,
Hmm.
it's pretty easy. And I wouldn't knock anyone from saying, "Hey, I have this resource. Let's do this to take care of it." So, um, everything has its pros and cons, but you really want to make sure you're planning
Yeah.
around it and making an intentional decision.
Hmm.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
Not everyone's going to get insurance. Not everyone's going to self-insure, but
Hmm.
saying, "Hey, I know what this risk is. This is how I'm going to address it." Because our job is to bring you the risk and say, "This is how
Hmm.
we should. These are the options to solve it." But at the end of the day, it comes down to your preference and how you feel about it.
Exactly. And a lot of folks also say something like, "Hey, if it were to happen, I'll sell the house," and that's very fair.
Yeah,
That's a logical planning step. But you want to make sure every dollar you have has a goal, and you want to make sure that that plan is already in place, so that if things were to head south,
yeah,
you're not necessarily stuck making a decision when you may not be in the best
absolutely.
case. Yeah.
Yeah, and also whatever the plan is, make sure you have a continue continue continuity plan. I
Hmm.
did it, because you said, "Yeah, we'll sell the house." If something happens to you, you're not going to be the one going through the
Hmm.
process of listing the house. And
Hmm.
if it's a partner or a child, or your adult child, they might not have the authority to do this stuff. So just really think about it and plan about it.
Hmm.
Number 9.
Number 9. What do we got? Are you emotionally ready to retire? This is, I think, very
Yeah.
challenging for folks to prepare for.
Yes. Yes.
Because it's a whole new identity. It definitely gets overlooked. You wake up, it's Saturday for I think the first 2 weeks, and then week 3 hits, and they start to say, "Huh, what should I do?"
Yeah.
What do you got?
We have, funny enough, a good amount of families that they retire and then they have like a small job delivering like auto parts,
Hmm.
or they work part-time at like a liquor store down the street,
Hmm. Home
um, be-
Depot,
Home Depot,
popular
right?
spot.
Because yeah, you're juiced.
Hmm.
You retire the first Monday. There's no emails, there's no meetings, there's no one calling you, and then it's great. And then like, yeah, about 3 4 weeks in, you start to realize everything, right? Like
Hmm.
the noises your house makes. We, for some reason, a lot of our families end up redoing their kitchen,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
they're home moored. Like, I really never really liked these
yeah.
cabinets. And it's, we always say like, yes, we're planning what you're retiring from, but you have to also really think about what you're retiring to,
Hmm.
because your job for the most part like gave you purpose, it gave you community, right? People to talk and interact with. And if you don't make an active decision to keep that engaged in how you're contributing, uh, yeah, a lot of folks go back because they simply get bored.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Exactly. And you got to retire to something,
yeah,
not from something.
yeah,
So it's straightforward but challenging. We have a lot of folks take up volunteering as well.
hmm,
Grandkids are always a good thing to do,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah. They love it. Yeah,
So, but eventually they go to school, and you want
yeah,
to be as busy as you can be,
yeah,
to make sure, or as much as you want to
yeah,
be, because some
yeah,
folks totally fine, they
yeah,
don't really mind,
yeah.
but
Some folks, yeah, we got
yeah,
some families driving their motorhomes across the
yeah,
country,
yeah.
Harley
Hmm.
Davidsons. So yeah, but if you are a busybody out there and you know who you are, um, just plan around it.
Yep. What legacy do you want to leave behind?
So,
10. Number 10.
number 10, yeah.
What legacy do you want to leave behind?
um, I think it's the mentality of what you want your family and loved ones to do with your resources that you leave
Hmm.
behind. The money, of course, is great. Inheriting generational wealth,
Hmm.
but also like, what is that meaning?
Hmm.
Like, what meaning do you want it to fulfill for like your loved ones? Is an important conversation.
Exactly. You need the documents to pass it along. That's a given, right?
Yeah,
To make sure it goes to who you'd like it to go to. But a lot of the families we serve have saved up enough where it might even go to the next generation after that. And so I always recommend writing a letter, right? Because if you have a trust or something along those lines, and you have those assets, you want to make sure that maybe grandkids, if somebody has a late grandkid that you didn't help raise,
yeah,
they understand the values and the time put into creating this wealth, because it's easy to see and be like, grandpa wouldn't mind if I bought a Corvette,
yeah,
but maybe he would.
yeah,
Some would, some wouldn't, and
yeah,
so you want to have it written down, because not everyone that sees the dollars you built
yeah,
will necessarily know exactly what you want. And I think it's something where, as much as you try it's very challenging to parent your kids and make sure that they have the same values. It's near impossible to do that from beyond the grave. So
yeah,
you want to make sure that you're on top of it
yeah,
and they know what it's for.
yeah. And there's something also important that we've seen with those letters that some of the families write is when you get context. If you have an inheritance from a family member, and sometimes when you get a context of what that family member did to build that wealth, build that legacy,
Hmm.
sometimes what we've seen is there's a little bit more of honor with those funds. It's like, oh, like my father or grandfather,
Hmm.
grandmother, parent, like, oh, they like worked at this company for 40,
Hmm.
45 years. I have a pension and build this net worth, this nest egg. And it gives a little bit more meaning to it.
Hmm. You become more of a steward of
Yeah,
the capital than maybe a spender,
yeah,
and recognizing that it's meant for assets, investment in
yeah,
yourself, and your children and the next generation.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in, getting cars are easy, but getting a new car, unless, right, it's a Camry to get you to work. That's a little different.
Yeah.
But a lot of times that use switches, and it's a tool to resource, not necessarily, a couple bucks in the account.
Yeah. So,
Segment 2, 10 actions to take now. You like that? I just covered
just
that.
2. Boom.
10 actions take now. So yes, those are a lot of the things we've covered, but if we were to break it down briefly, what comes to mind, Jackie? You can do
Boom.
5.
Boom.
In a concise manner.
In a concise, I'm just gonna say 5 sentences. Boom. 1, build a retirement budget. We like to do needs, wants, and wishes.
Mhm.
Needs, absolute must. The utility bills, mortgage, all that fun. Wants is the fun stuff: travel, leisure, dinners.
Portugal.
Huh?
Portugal.
Portugal, if that's your thing. And then wishes, the aspirational, saying, hey, if this is in the cards, awesome. But if not, we can live.
Gifting to grandkids.
Yeah.
$1,000 a month.
Yeah. That condo in Fort Lauderdale.
Yep. 2.
Social Security. Pull it. Go to ssa.gov. We have great tools and resources to estimate it based on your income, but getting the information directly from the source always helps.
Mm-hmm.
So ssa.gov, go there, pull it, see what you have. Also, for those who have married for 10 years, make sure you're taking advantage of the spousal benefit if your partner maybe didn't work, which is 50% of yours if it's higher. 4, stress test your plan. So we do stress testing for our plans, throughout, even you're 20 years away from retirement. And basically planning towards high inflation, which is where we're still in that season. And 2, market downturns. So if we have a 2008, 2009 meltdown, what will the portfolio do? How would this also impact your goals?
Sequence of returns risk.
Sequence of return risk, right?
Yeah.
Next one, 4, I forgot, you told me to keep them short. Run a retirement income projection plan with the actual professional who actually knows the nuance. Yes, there's a million calculators out there, but there's a reason why they're free and online. They're not bad. They might give you a good idea, but run a plan because your income is not going to be steady. It's going to change Social Security. The market, right? There's just something.
Can I add a caveat? Run a plan with an independent firm, right? If the word mutual is in the firm, not necessarily ideal, right? If their core product is insurance and the first thing they bring up to you is insurance, not necessarily optimal, historically speaking. Right?
That's fair.
To be compliant.
But
be cautious, right? Everybody knows someone who worked at Northwestern Mutual and got put in a policy that was not in their best interest because it paid 7%. Watch out.
Yes. Now, but on a caveat, if you're someone who says, we've had this happen, clients say, listen, I know I got to be invested in the market. When the market pulls back 0.5%, I lose 3 hours of sleep. I just cannot deal with the risk. Then an annuity makes sense. But that's because it was right for you and not someone just trying to
not trying to jam you in.
So, all right. Moving right along.
6, that's me. No?
Go for it.
Or did you do 5?
Oh, we didn't do 5. Review your investment allocation with your current goals in mind, right? So again, you can see online, or you might even talk to friends, and someone might say, oh, my buddy who works next to me is same track for retirement. He's 80-20, but I'm 70-30, or whatever it might be. Your investment allocation is meant for you and your financial goals. Like everyone's situation is a fingerprint. So
every dollar should have a goal. Every dollar should have something in plan that it's for. So that obviously changes when you have an income to when you are making your own income. Keep that in mind. All right, pivot to me. 6, consider Roth conversions. Really easy, right? Effective tax rate can be as low as 0 if you're doing things effectively. Or again, you just want to keep it less than when you were 55 making, 300,000, right? So consider Roth conversions. 7, consolidate accounts. We work with one family who the individual had 11 different 401ks. that is outrageously challenging for the estate if you were to pass with 11 401ks.
Yeah.
That means 11 death certs, 11 different companies that you are pseudo fighting with to get it done seamlessly because you want to make it as effective or as easy as possible for the family.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they don't even know they exist.
Yeah.
So, if I had 11 401ks, I don't think Angela would necessarily know where they are. And
Yeah.
so that becomes a challenge. Always good to consolidate, have it in one place, have transfer on death or beneficiaries up to date, have a will in place, make it as easy as possible because it's already a very challenging, emotional, terrible process, and there's no reason to make it worse.
Yeah.
Create or update your estate documents. Number 8, same line of thinking. Will, power of attorney, healthcare directive, get them in order. A lot of times you want to make sure that if something were to happen to you mentally, like you have a stroke or something along those lines, your family can take over a lot of the planning, a lot of the investments, a lot of the finances, because it can be a very challenging time where there's not necessarily a way to go about it that's easy.
Yeah.
Right. And so you want to make sure that both upon your passing and while you're still living, you can get what you need for your family.
And I'll also add I forgot, you came up with a better name for it, but I used to call it a death drill. My wife does not like the name, but
Yes.
basically, for obvious reasons, I manage the finances of the household, and I have a folder and like instructions. Really, heaven forbid something happens to me. Here's where the life insurance policy is. Pay these debts. Here are where all the accounts are. Like, just have and that stuff might not really be in those official estate documents. So just having that somewhere.
Yeah.
Because like, especially if you have adult kids and, we found an account. My father passed like 7 years ago. We just found another account. So it's like, and all that money that's out there, you wanted to go to your loved ones. So make sure you have it down in one easy to read, easy to find
Exactly.
place.
I would call it In Case I'm Not Here.
That's what it was.
And
Much
it
better.
has, what's going to happen is one member of our team, Paul probably, is going to create a video on it.
Yeah.
And we're going to include what that list looks like as to what's on it. And it goes, as in depth of who is the plumber, who does pest control if you have those things at your house, who does your HVAC, your obviously advisory team, finances, passwords.
Oh, yeah.
Brutal. So the list is long, but just things to think about. 9, evaluate long-term care options. So we spoke about this at length, but essentially if you're going to self-insure, where's the money going to come from? Do you have a home equity line of credit on your house? Do you have a policy if you need it? But premiums go up fast. That is, the cost of insurance climbs very quickly from 60 to 70. So the sooner you buy it, the more cost effective it is, of course. But either way, you need a plan because if you don't want to, right, our job is to educate. If you don't want to and you don't necessarily see the value in it, you need to have a plan A for yourself, right? Because it does happen fairly often. 10, try a retirement dress rehearsal. So before retirement, a lot of times folks just go in cold, right? They retire and then they just say, all right, let's set it up. Let's start getting some money from these accounts. But a lot of times it's best to start 3 months, 6 months before, right? So if you need 10,000 a month in retirement, we may consider starting to send that to you before, and maybe your paycheck goes into a different account so you don't see it. And you get used to seeing those $10,000 monthly, or a lot of folks prefer 5,000 biweekly. So it feels like they're still getting a paycheck in retirement, but evaluating that before the actual retirement date, not necessarily game time, right? You want to have a little practice, a little bit of a feel for it. And it does make that transition easier because I find after 6 months, most folks are totally comfortable. But those first 6 months, a lot of times, we love answering questions. We do get a lot of them during that time period. Anything to add there?
Can I add an 11, a bonus 11?
What do you got?
Retirement planning isn't just for when you are 2 years out from retirement. It is, my philosophy is never too early to really start thinking about this stuff and start planning. Because especially when you have a plan and see what you're projected, and we've had some families who are in their 40s and say, wait, I'm going to be able to spend this much. I want to be able to spend more.
Mhm.
Like, okay, then let's start saving more. We've got 15 years to add to that. So um, you might be staring retirement in the face, but if you want to retire,
Mhm.
you should always be thinking about it.
Exactly. And a lot of the families we work with, we're always happy to speak to their kids as well.
Yep.
I was helping out someone last month, 24, 23. But either way, the biggest asset they have right now is time. And if we ran through an analysis, if they were dating, if they were contributing about, I think it was like $1,000 a month, they ended up with a couple million in retirement.
Yeah.
And the bulk of that was growth, where 500,000 at the time was their contribution over their lifetime, and the growth was $2 million.
Yeah.
So if you have time, that's the biggest resource,
hmm
because most folks we speak to, really across the board, even if they have the assets and are totally comfortable, uh, generally they say, I wish I started sooner.
Yeah.
And no matter really who I've spoken to, most have said that.
Yeah.
And so it's something that we're always happy to speak to kids. We're always happy to educate and help sort of get that ball rolling, because the impact of compounding is tremendous, right? They say it's the eighth wonder of the world.
It is.
So
Ben
it
Franklin,
can be
yeah.
very, very impactful as
And,
far as you look
and
at
just a
things.
quick, I just pulled this up. To have $1 million by retirement, how much you have to save a month? At 20 is $360. If you're going getting 6%, which
Mhm.
is a very, very conservative.
Mhm.
But if you wait until you're 30, which is just 10 years, it doubles to almost 700
Wow.
bucks a month.
So 365 to 7?
Yeah, 361 to 700.
Yeah.
So time is on your side. So young folks out there, start saving money. 50 bucks, 100 bucks a month.
Exactly.
The more the better.
And to complement that, maybe this podcast will never end. To complement that, because apparently we like to hear ourselves talk. We work with, again, a lot of folks who grandmom started an account when they were first born, right? They were 6 months old, and she said, I'm going to put $10,000 into this. Never touched it. Now we work with a few people who have $250,000, $400,000 from that initial gift.
Yeah.
So it was done a while ago. I can't necessarily see the cost basis because it's pre-2000 most of the time.
The olden times.
Yeah, the olden
Yeah.
times when computers were
Yeah.
less functional.
Yeah.
But that gift, right? We talk about a lot. If you gift to your children's Roth IRA to make sure it's invested and going to the right place, it's not just a $7,000 gift, right? Because it doubles, historically speaking, every
Yeah.
10 years, and so it ends up being worth 28,
Yeah.
56,000,
Tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah,
Then
tens of thousands of dollars if it's
tax-free.
run early enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right.
All right. You probably heard enough of us.
Yes.
Jackie, close us out.
Well, as always, we're always here to help you demystify, the financial planning topics. If you have any questions, don't ever hesitate to reach out. And also, some folks have been giving us some ideas of topics, which has
Yeah.
been fun. So we'll always
Shout out Tom.
Yep, Tom. Thanks.
Yeah.
So yeah, have a good one. Enjoy the fall, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thanks, everybody.